Yes, thank you so much for being part of the Sports Arena. My name is Brian, and today we are looking at the local leagues here in East Africa, the Kenyan Football League, the Ugandan Super League, as well as the Tanzanian Football League. And the question is, why is the Tanzanian League standing out, and when you compare it to Uganda as well as Kenya? The first question would be, what is standing out? The first thing, when you look at all those leagues, you look at the amount of money and the amount of sponsorship all those leagues attract. And I've been doing a small research, and I've come to notice that now the Tanzanian league, when you look at the amount of money that is coming into the league, it is very outrageous, and it's really because of the few things that have been done here and there to make it a little bit more competitive. So you bear with me. I'm changing the language, especially for you who have been watching in all along in the previous videos, because of the demand that comes in from a few of our fans that are coming in from Kenya, Tanzania, as well as Rwanda. We have a big fan base there, so they like the message, they like what I really bring to you, but sometimes they don't understand the language. So we shall be mixing a few things in here and there for you to enjoy, especially the sporting world. Now, looking at all the three leagues, and you look at the sponsorship deals that come with the three leagues. First of all, the Tanzanian Premier League has a better marketing procedure when you look at the way they do their things. In fact, one of the things that while I was doing my research and looking through these leagues, they've just signed a new 5-year deal, sponsorship deal with the National Bank of Commerce. And when you look at, of course, the title sponsorship is worth, for Ugandans out there, it is worth 47.2 billion. That is Ugandan shillings in the next 5 years. That is from when it was signed to 2027-2028 season. And that is in addition to the Azam TV sponsorship that they already have. The deal is worth Tanzanian shillings 225.6 billion. That is roughly 326.5 billion Ugandan shillings, and that is a 10-year deal. It began in 2021. So that gives them the amount of money that they need for their clubs to be run in a better way. When you compare to Uganda, of course, Ugandan league, currently we have a deal with Star Times, and the monies that come into there are not equal to the monies that come into Tanzania. And of course, we also have sponsors like MTN that have also come on board, and MTN gave them an offer of roughly 600 million, which is roughly 300 million per year. The deal is for 2 years. So when you compare that to that is at the Tanzanian league, you see that makes them stand out. In the Tanzanian league, 60% of the monies that come into the sponsorship, 67% of the money goes all the way to the club. That is approximately 11.6 billion. And to me, when you compare that to Uganda and how much comes into the clubs, I'm going to be comparing and showing you how much money each club gets, especially in this Tanzanian league. That is an equivalent of shillings 723 million sponsorship for each club per season. So now, the reason why you see these clubs in Tanzania, the young, the Simbas, coming out and buying players from the countries like Uganda, countries like Kenya, and the other African countries, is because they have the amount of money that is available for them to really come into their clubs and kind of improve their financial structures. The Star Times Premier League is a 10-year sponsorship deal that works with, of course, the Star Times Big League as well as the Premier League. And when you compare to its deal and what is really in its deal, it's more of a broadcast deal. Most of the money is going to the broadcasts of matches and, of course, the day-to-day programs. And usually when you compare that to Tanzania, that have a broadcast sponsor like Azam, and then they have other title sponsors, then to me it makes it a little bit different, and you will see that the monies are not the same. And of course, the other thing about it, when you compare the clubs in all these three countries, you compare the clubs in Tanzania and Kenya as well, the likes of Tusker, you will see that the Gor Mahias of this world, Gor Mahia is trying a little bit to be better, but you'll see that Tanzania holds a little bit of more of the better clubs, especially in the size of the clubs. Simba FC as well as Yanga, those two clubs have the biggest fan base all over, that is Tanzania, and especially when you look at their match day programs, and you look at a game where Simba FC are being hosted at one of the biggest stadiums in Tanzania, you will see that they have numbers, and in fact, looking at that picture, you will see how much is taken into when you see such clubs hosting a game in Tanzania. Those are two different pictures of Simba FC as well as Yanga FC having their fans in just a match day. Now, when you compare that to Uganda, that is a national team playing. When you compare that to Kenya, that is a national team playing. Simba FC is a club that has been there for so many years. It was inaugurated in 1936. As Queen, and of course it changed the name all the way to Sunderland. Then in 1971 they decided to go all the way back to a traditional name, that is Simba, meaning lion, and they've managed to go all the way and win a bit of titles, especially local domestic titles, over 22 of them, and of course they've also gone to the CAF Champions League a multiple of times because of their performances. And usually when you look at the picture I showed you is at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium, where they host their games all the way in Temeke district, and you compare their growth and the fan base and the way they are doing their things. They seem to be a team that is growing as compared to other clubs in the region. I'll give you an example. In 2022, Simba, was one of the fast-growing clubs, especially because they are not just strong clubs, but they know how to market themselves. That is the point. On just Instagram alone, 1.9 million followers. That was the growth of like 89% as compared to other previous years. And to me, that really makes them so much of a team that is needed. People can, what should I call it? It makes them a team on demand, especially by them portraying what is happening in the team, their training session, the news, the latest news and match days, everything they do, especially on this social media, makes them a little bit more have the appeal that you need from them. And the other thing about them is that they have a big capital base, which is not as compared to clubs in Uganda as well as some clubs in Kenya. We are talking about a club that is owned by the richest man in Tanzania. That is a man who is named by the names of Muhammad Jwewi. He's the number one in Tanzania, and of course number 1,905 in billionaires. That is all the way in the Forbes list. I'm talking about number 1,905 in the world. So if he's listed there, he's only 48 years and he's still a young man. And you look at the amount of money that he bought this club. Of course, he bought a 51% stake in the club. That is a few years back. That is approximately $10 million US. And of course, he's a man who deals in things like textile. He has a company called Met. The name is Melty. It is METL. It deals in textiles, it deals in beverages, it deals in flour milling, edible oils as well, and it has companies all the way in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and so many of other things. So despite the fact that the club might not make the money that it needs to be run, but they have someone who has a lot of money that is injected into the club to make them a little bit more have the appeal as well as buy the players that they need. Then the other thing about it, when you compare Uganda to Tanzania to Kenya, they have better infrastructure. You look at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium, I think of the all stadiums that were put there and then listed for the 2027 the African Cup, or you can call it the the African Cup of Nations. That is the name of the tournament. If you see all the stadiums that were submitted for them to be hosted in the three countries that put up the Pamoja bid, you see that the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium is one of the stadiums that are up there already to the standards. Over 60,000 that is spectators that are expected to be gracing this interesting stadium. And when you look at the way they do their things, that stadium was built a few years back, and of course it costed them over is it 50 million US dollars? Yes, it costed them over 56 million US dollars. It was constructed by a Beijing construction Indian group, and what happened was in 2004, that was 2004, there was a company called Vinci Construction, a French company, that put in a tender of 154 million US dollars. But there was pressure that came in from the Bretton Woods institutions, now known as the IMF right now, and the World Bank. There was pressure because of France was trying to, of course, try to dominate, and there was a competition. They wanted to raise the IMF as well as the World Bank, but of course the pressure came in, and of course they lost that bid to the China company that built it for 56 million. It was a little bit cheaper. In fact, there was a grant of 20 million on that construction, and it's now one of the best stadiums all the way in East Africa. When you compare it to Nambole, the capacity itself is better. When you look at the Nyayo Stadium in Kenya, you see that the capacity is better. And the other thing about it is when there is a match there and they're hosting clubs like Simba and Yanga, like I told you, teams fill these stadiums all the way to full capacity. That is the way these teams accumulate the funding, accumulate the finance, because gate collection is one of the few things that earn them money. So the reason why these clubs in Tanzania, and you see the way they are localizing their football, the language they are doing their game, and then the other thing about the promotion of the game, the promoters, the sponsors, locally, you compare to the other clubs all the way in Kenya and Tanzania, it is not the same. Then the other thing is the political infrastructure as well, because you remember a few years back Kenya has been having issues in their political state. They've been having a lot of issues, especially with the government getting involved into footballing matters, which is not accepted by FIFA at all levels. They do not accept that, and that is why you see there were bans that came in, there were issues, so many issues that came in, and that has really kept away some of the sponsors. In fact, this year alone, the league does not have a clear sponsor. In 2012 and 2015, they had East African Breweries under their flagship brand of Tusker. It was called the Tusker Premier League. 2015, SportsPesa came in. Then in 2028, 2029, there was no type of sponsor. Then 2020, 2021, Betkin came in with, I think, approximately 11.2 million US dollars per year. And then the deal was terminated in 2021. So they've been having a lot of issues in there. Now, currently, the season, the Kenyan Premier League season right now does not have a title sponsor. So that is money that they're lacking into their game. And to meet, when you compare that to Tanzania, Tanzania has been a little bit more stable. Uganda has not been at war or having a lot of issues. But you remember what happened a few years back. I think it was the controversy of the Akol game between the game between Villa and Akol that had over 22 goals, and it caused a lot of controversy. The match fixing in the Ugandan game. In fact, if you were there by then you would know what really led to fans deserting the stadiums and not coming back to the stadium. That was the era of the match fixing, where we had the likes of Dennis Obua, who was then the FIFA president, having issues, even taken to jail, taken to court and all that. And we had fights in there. It's only after Mr. Lawrence Murido coming into the game and, of course, stabilizing, and then Inge Moses Mago coming in, that we are seeing innovations coming and sponsors coming in with better offers, and, of course, the clubs getting elite education and, having, managers from the local scene going all the way to CAF and getting education, facilities like the Njeru Technical Center, which are courtesy of the FIFA grants, the Kadiba Stadium, which currently right now I will have a program, and I'll be doing that, program about that Kadiba Stadium. There are a lot of issues on that stadium. But when you look at the political infrastructure and the way the environment has been, especially in Uganda, and you compare it to Tanzania as well as Kenya, Tanzania has been a little bit more stable. In fact, the government has been getting more involved in sports than the other nations in there. In fact, when you ask me where I would see the opening games all the closing games or the final for the 2027 African Cup of Nations all the way in East Africa. I would think that the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium would be the hosting space for that interesting game, because they look more of the country that are set, that are on course to getting better. So when you compare all that, and the other thing is also the league getting better has given an opportunity to some players, of course, rising to the top of their game. And you see the likes of Mwama Semata, the likes of Simon Suva. You know, we have even players that have gone all the way to the Premier League, especially coming in from Tanzania. It has elevated the game. The follow-up is big. And, you know, there's demand for the local game, especially from the Tanzanian population, because their game is organized. There's a lot of money coming in. We have title sponsors. And also, of course, there's also the increased coverage, as well as the media, local media coming in and giving it 100%. In Uganda as well, when you compare that, there's been growth, especially with the way things are being done. There's now localizing the game, with FIFA coming in and, of course, owning a TV station right now, as well as a radio station. That means coverage of every single game is available, especially at a cheaper cost, because now FIFA TV is on a free-to-air channel, so everyone can access it if they have a free-to-air decoder, so you don't have to pay monthly to watch, which might be another problem, because now the broadcast rights that the likes of StarTimes have for the game, you know, they don't generate the kind of amount of income that they would really want to generate, especially to be injected back to the game. So, but at this stage, I really think that we need to get familiar with the local game. We have now teams that are getting better, especially the likes of the Arua Hill, the likes of Onduparaka. Now, currently, Chitara, it looks like the team that are locally getting the kind of appeal that comes with the local game. We have a lot of their fans. If you watch the game between them and KCCA last weekend, you saw the turn-up was a little bit bigger and better. So you're seeing the people, especially from the local scene, starting to appreciate the game. In Kenya as well, despite the fact that, you know, they've been having those challenges, especially with the governance and all that. But you see now the new sponsorship, especially the broadcast sponsorship coming in. You see that their game is starting to cut across, especially not only in Kenya, but also to the East African countries. We can watch their games and follow their teams as well. But still, there's also some sponsorship coming in, of course, for the shirts, and different teams getting different sponsors, especially for the shirts and their teams. But it's not compared to Tanzania. The amount of money that is coming in Tanzania, I saw a different, someone was showing me how much a winner in Uganda and how much they get for winning a trophy, as well as how much the winner for the Premier League in Tanzania gets. And you compare that, it was over 6 times better than what the winner in Uganda gets. So you see how much money is getting into the game. But it's not just an individual. It has been a setup that has, you know, grown into being better every single day. It is not just an individual. The likes of Lawrence Mlindwa in Uganda, the likes of Inyamozes Magugu. No, it's not just individuals, but the institutions as well as government have helped, especially to create an environment that is suitable for the game. And I think, to me, with the way things are happening, especially in Uganda, infrastructure-wise, we are getting better stadiums, we are getting better input from government. In Kenya as well, there is an improvement, especially with the African Cup of Nations coming on to board. We are seeing things getting better. We expect something better, especially in the next coming years. But still, to me, as a person coming in from Uganda, I have experience with what is not keeping the fans in the stadiums. The fans do not have a sense of belonging, especially to these teams. You support a team like URA. URA, for you who don't know what URA in Uganda is, Uganda Revenue Authority. It is in charge of taxes in Uganda. So for it to have fans, you know, supporting that team, they must be, they must be either employees of that company or people that have relatives in that company, because there is no reason for someone to support such a team, especially if they have goods that have been kept all the way in warehouses and they cannot clear them because of money. So they will have that bad perception about URA. And I think it is not URA alone, it's KCC as well, it's other institutions, because of the nature of our game. Because when you look at the background of our game, the structure of our game, from where it came from, the early years of the Balama Zelwanga and Polycarp Kakoza, who got the idea from England and brought it and initiated the idea of how we are supposed to run our league. And of course, there were no clubs especially organized to get into this game. So you had districts coming in, and in fact, looking at my paper here, I remember the likes of Prisons, Ame, Coffee, Express, Ginger, as well as Masakan, Bara, and Mbale were the few clubs that were in the inaugural 1968 league. So that has kept us in a place whereby now it's very difficult for clubs that are from communities, because that is the only way you can bring back the fan base, especially the players in the fans in the stadium to support their teams. You will have stadiums not filled to capacity, the likes of Nambole, the likes of Nachivubo, the likes of the likes of whatever stadium that we have built in the country, the Hoima City Stadium. We will have them not full to capacity, and the amount of money that the teams will get from gate collection will not be enough, because the fans do not feel, they don't have a sense of belonging, especially when you compare them to those teams, because of the way the teams are structured. So we need more community teams in the league, and I think, to me, that is something that it's a plan that needs to be drawn for the next coming 20 years. It might not be applicable right now, but I think with the right state of mind, with the right organization, this to me will be something that will make our football a little bit better. The same applies to Kenya, the same applies to Tanzania, and with that way, we will see a better kind of game, will be a better kind of attraction, especially from the local fans in there. So I'm not saying that the Tanzanian league is better in everything, in every aspect of life, but I think when you compare the leagues, especially from the 3 East African countries, I'm not saying there are only 3 East African countries, but from the 3 major East African countries, you'll notice that the Tanzanian league really speaks out, especially with the amount of money injection, with the amount of attraction, because a lot of players are attracted to come to the Tanzanian league, especially from other countries, because of how much they earn, even the managers that they are attracting there, as compared to the likes of Rwanda and Kenya and Uganda as well. So to me, that really is a lesson. We need to learn from our game. We need to learn from our past. We need to learn from the present for us to determine what we want to see in the future, for us to make the game a better game. The other thing about it is the Tanzanian league as well had another interesting bit about how they develop their game. They managed to have a partnership with the La Liga. La Liga is the company that runs the Spanish La Liga all the way in Spain. So they brought in technical people to teach their clubs how to run the clubs as professional clubs. They have had games, the likes of Sevilla coming all the way that is Tanzania, to play friendly games with the Tanzanian teams. They've had that merge as well as the connection with those Spanish clubs, and to me that has improved their game a little bit more, because now they are even opening opportunities for women football, for their women to go all the way in Spain to learn the game, because now the best teams in Europe come from Spain is one of the best teams in Europe, as well as Barcelona, Real Madrid are doing very good, especially in the women's game. So those kind of opportunities are not in other teams in other countries like Uganda, because we've not really stabilized our league for us to start looking outward, because we still have to solve our issues inward for us to attract the outward influence, because if you begin with outward, then the influence will be too much, and you might be overwhelmed by the pressure that comes, especially with organizations like the Premier League, as well as the Spanish La Liga, or any other, or Portugal League. But if you begin with solving the problems internal, then the external will be a little bit more better. Hopefully, the people and the stakeholders that run this game have had something to learn from this. Yes, I might not have all the knowledge as well as the understanding of the game, but that is my opinion. That is the opinion of a few fans that really I speak with, or I speak to, and I believe by coming together and sharing more, then we can make our beautiful game a little bit more better, especially here in East Africa as we host the 2027 African Cup of Nations. This is the road to the Pomoja 2027. We expect a better game, we expect a better team, and we expect a better performance from all our East African teams by improving our game and making it better. Thank you. My name is Brian. Stay tuned. God bless you. Bye-bye.